dustbin day. On another road trip today, and look, it's the magic roundabout in Hemel Hempstead.
We just sort of gone and tried to.
Well, it's not a bad view from where we are, I have to say.
Yeah. So you want a clearing in the wooded area?
If possible, yes. This is Jill, friend of ours, who's going to be taking part in the calendar. Hello, Jill. Ooh, guinea fowl. And Jill has very kindly arranged for us to have access to this particular property, which has 500 acres of land to play with, including fields and woodlands. So what we're looking for is a decent place to shoot our Yule photograph. The concept we had for the Yule photograph is very simple. We just wanted a bunch of ladies, more mature ladies, sat around a fire, telling stories, listening to each other, sharing memories, because that's what Yule is all about. The traditional festival of Yule falls around the 21st of December and those days around there. And it was the time when adults could finally take a breather. As indeed I should have, because I've just walked up a hill. See, back in the olden days, you couldn't just pop down the shop and buy what you needed. You had to make it, and that included your food. So you had to prepare the soil, you had to plant the seed, you had to fertilise it and water it. You then had to harvest it. You then had to figure out how you were going to store it, so you had enough to see you through the winter. And the same with your animals. You know, there was husbandry to organise, and the breeding of animals and the birthing of animals. And then later on, the slaughtering of animals and how you prepared the meat and how you preserved it, again, to get you through the winter. It just never stopped. And on top of that, you had to make all your own tools, all your own clothes, build your own houses. So when it got to Yule, and these very dark, cold times of the year where you couldn't do much else, that was a time to look back on the year that's been and reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well, what have we learned that we can take forward into the following year. It was a time to remember those people who'd passed. And it was a time also to think about hopes and dreams and what you plan to do in the year ahead and how you could maybe achieve some more of the goals that you wanted to achieve. So Yule is very much about introspection. It's about thinking about, you know, what you should do, while at the same time celebrating the fact you've got through another year. And it was often celebrated with a feast because there was an abundance of stuff that came in from the harvest. And there was a kind of spirit of Yule that was quite often shown as a sort of large, gentle, giant character with a big bushy beard.
A great big bushy beard!
You know, a long green robe and with a crown of holly, and he'd be sitting there drinking a big glass of ale or mead and, you know, a cornucopia, you know, a horn of plenty with all the food spilling out of it. If you want a good example of that, look in the early editions of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, because the Ghost of Christmas Present looks very much like this Yule character who became known as Father Christmas. He was the spirit of Christmas. Some of these little locations are absolutely amazing. We are sport for choice. We are definitely sport for choice.
You even lay out some logs in like a ritual type shape and front.
Loving this little beech grove. This is beautiful.
Yeah. So you said you're quite open-minded, so I mean
very.
that's the sort of stuff.
Poor old larch tree.
Meditate.
Yes,
It's a good contemplative place to sit, isn't it? It's even got its own altar. Because this is lovely, this bit. Framed by these old cherry trees and a bit of what we got over here. A little bit of beech, a little bit of hazel. That's just really lovely. Imagine a group of people sitting around here, around a fire. That's our Yule photograph, straight away. It's beautifully framed. Father Christmas grew out of this tradition, this Yule tradition, of this big jovial fellow who was the spirit of the season, the Yule season. He became known as Father Christmas.
A great big bushy beard!
But on the other side of the pond in America, strange things were happening because the Dutch settlers who went over there and established colonies in America, I mean, I'm sure you know, New York was originally called New Amsterdam because it was all Dutch settlers. The Dutch settlers took their traditions with them, and amongst them was St. Nicholas, or Sinterklaas, who is the patron saint of kids. And it just so happens that his patron saint's day is around the same time as Yule. So what happened was they took their settlers over there, and of course what the young Americans and the young British settlers and the German settlers saw is that all the Dutch kids got presents at Christmas because St. Nicholas is the patron saint of children. And of course the early shops and stores were very quick to seize on this, and as a result Christmas started mutating into this whole new version of Christmas where it was all about children and gift giving and that sort of thing. And the old celebration of Yule, which was for the adults to celebrate the end of the year and to finally have a rest after a year of hard work, was gone. In fact, it shifted to the new year. That's what happened. It shifted to the new year. So now that's the time that the adults celebrate, and Christmas is now for the kids. Meanwhile, Sinterklaas became Santa Claus, and Santa Claus effectively killed Father Christmas rather brutally, because you'll very rarely hear kids say Father Christmas these days. They all say Santa or Santa Claus. And of course, you know, huge advertising campaigns by, you know, most famously Coca-Cola, who didn't invent the red suit. That's a whole urban myth. It existed a long time before Coca-Cola used it. It just helped to cement the idea of Santa Claus. But if we're going to go back to the older British traditions of Yule, then the person you should be looking to is Old Father Christmas, or the spirit of Christmas. That said, we thought it might be a bit of a cliche to do Father Christmas or Santa Claus for the calendar. So what we did instead was we decided we'd have a Yule celebration with a group of mature women sitting around a fire, looking back over the year, chatting, talking, swapping stories, remembering those that had died. And the reason we went for the older models is because within those aspects of paganism who do believe in gods and goddesses, not all do, but for those that do, the goddess is usually the embodiment of the earth. She's Mother Nature. And as the year goes through, she goes through three forms. They call her the triple goddess. She starts off as the maiden, then she becomes the mother when new life is born onto the land and in the sea and in the air, and then she becomes the older, wiser woman in her autumn years, which is where this phrase comes from, of course. That used to be called a crone, which is not such a nice word these days. People associate it with rather more negative views, but it's the older wise woman who's got all the stories and all the folk remedies and all the medicines and all the knowledge. And we thought it'd be nice as the calendar progresses for the models to get progressively older, and they do. You'll find that our spring model's quite young, and then as we go through they mature, and we end up with them sitting around the fire at Yule. So there you go, that's that all explained. Let's go back to the photo shoot. You like the pudding stone, do you, Ali?
Yeah, look at this teeny tiny little moss.
I know, isn't it fabulous? Life finds a way. There it is.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, pudding stones. And they're naturally forming. You know, this isn't human concrete. This is a naturally formed pudding stone. We said we might get a photograph of you all with this as well.
Yeah, that would be stunning.
After we've done the woods.
Get that cauldron back and put a fire in front of it.
Well, that's what I was saying. I said, would we damage the lawn? And she's, no, have a fire there if you want to. So,
there, haven't you?
yeah.
I think.
So we'll get the woodland shot done and then we'll do a pudding stone shot. Right, well here we go. We're heading down into the woods. Just as dusk is appearing. And there's a bunch of guinea fowl over this fence. I think they're being a bit wary because there's a red kite flying around just up there. And the guinea fowl are looking a little bit nervous. But they don't have to worry because red kites are scavengers, they're not hunters. If it was a buzzard, they'd have reason to worry. But he's having a swoop every so often and having a look. Listen to them, they're quite agitated. So here we go. Nearly there, nearly there. So while oh, you're right, Mark.
Yeah, I'm fine. Just gonna be caught brambles.
I'll cut that bit out of the edit, all right? So while the girls are doing their lipstick, the boys are moving the forest around. This is looking very nice, isn't it?
Will work.
I know we've got to wait for it to get ever so slightly darker, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's looking great.
But we should have. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Funny how
Isn't
the world
it?
spins you back
Isn't
round
it?
and puts you back.
And a similar thing with Dawn, who lived in my village as well.
Right, all look at me again, exactly the same thing. If you can move your arms up just slightly higher, Jill. That's it, yeah. Go. Stop. It's definitely darker behind now, that's cool.
This is all going very well.
And one more. One last one, all looking at me. Then I think we've got what I need. And go. Stop.
Such a nice feeling, and we've done it. It's taken months and months and months, but we've done it. We've got every photograph.
Well done.
So that's it. We're all done. We've got our photograph. That's the final one of the 8 Sabbath photographs. We've just now got to do the cover photograph. And then that's the whole calendar complete. Great stuff. Really enjoyed doing this one. Anyway, until the next video. Toodle bit. And don't forget that our Neo-Pagan Wheel of the Year calendar is now available to pre-order. UK residents simply scan the QR code. Overseas customers email us at copa.artist@gmail.com and we'll try and work out the cheapest way of posting it to you. Thanks very much. If you've enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing. Or click on some of these links to look at some of the other videos on the channel. Or press the like button. Or leave a comment. It would be lovely to hear from you. Any combination of those 4 things would be wonderful. Thank you very much.